Hello again, and welcome to Nation Building. On this program, we examine political, social, and moral issues in leadership. And I'm Winston Pinnock, your host. Today, we have the distinct pleasure of having the Minister of Immigration and Foreign Affairs, Mr. Fred Mitchell, on our program. Mr. Mitchell, welcome to Nation Building.
Great, thank you. It's a pleasure. I apologize for the raspiness of my voice, but every year at this time, pollen takes a hold of it. And I have something called allergic rhinitis, so, but it sounds worse than it is.
Better to be here with that than not to be here. Yes. So thank you for coming.
All right, thank you.
When we come back from this break, we're going to dive into the issues that you, the Bahamian public, want to find out about immigration, specifically, and to a lesser extent, foreign affairs. Stay tuned.
At Henry F. Storr Electric Company, we supply all your electrical needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Storr Electric, number 135 Mackley Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
Hello, I'm Wendell Jones, and every time I sit down and I watch JCN television, I drink the Jamaica Bahama fruit juice. It's so pleasing to the palate.
I've been cooking Bahamian dishes for generations. I now use Jamaica Bahamas product. The rice is very fluffy, very tasty, and good eating. Jamaica Bahama product is simply the best.
As an insurance agent, my life is go, go, go. But whenever I need a refreshing break, it's Jamaica Bahamas Island Mixed Fruit Drink. Good.
Hi, I'm Debbie Bartlett from GEMS 105.9 FM. The effect that Island Junkanoo Juice Medley has on me is exhilarating.
Welcome back to Nation Building. Minister Mitchell, I believe we'd have to go back to the early days of our country's shortly after independence to find a minister of immigration that is more popular and widely seen by the Bahamian people as being as capable and well-liked as you are.
For Rex Nettleford used to say, flattery will get you everywhere, but that's very kind of you to say. But no, immigration is a emotional and emotive topic, and so it's central to the identity of our country, and so everybody's interested in it. Of course, the fact is we are a country of immigrants, and the question isn't really so much whether there's immigration. The question is whether there's regular immigration, that is, immigration which is done lawfully and not through the back door, and that's really the issue. And of course, the Department of Immigration and the ministry is responsible for ensuring that there is regular and lawful migration to the Bahamas.
And you are the chief administrator
Yes.
of making sure the government policy is carried out in
That's
that
right.
regard.
The way the law is structured, the Immigration Board is in fact the cabinet, but the functions of work permits and other permits are delegated to the minister responsible for immigration.
Good. In the limited time that we have with you, we're not going to get around to foreign affairs issues because we'd need another program for that, and hopefully we'll be good to you today and cause you to want to come back with us at at a later time. But while you are no doubt extremely popular in the country, I don't know, especially the younger generation, if they know your background, and so I wanted to take a few minutes for you to give you an opportunity to share just a little bit where you were born, your early days, and your education. I believe you were educated at Harvard University.
Yeah, I was born in 1953 in Nassau. My parents' home was built in Collins Avenue in Centerville, and they were lower middle class people. My father was from Baintown. My mother's from Armstrong Street. They both, as it happened, were christened in St. Agnes because my mother was actually born in Augusta Street. So, and that's the church I go to now, St. Agnes in Grantstown. I am quite Afrocentric, and I believe very much in the role of the African in this country, and attach my life's work to that. Probably decided to go into politics when I was around 10 years old.
Wow, early age.
Yeah, John Kennedy was the President of the United States at the time, and you know, he captured the imagination of that generation of people. I was in primary school at the time. And I was 13 when Majority Rule took place, so I met the late Sir Lyndon Pindling, the founder of the country, in and around 1969, and developed a relationship with him. And that development catapulted me into meet his other colleagues. Arthur Hanna, of course, is a cousin of mine. My great-grandfather and his grandfather were brothers. So I met Sir Cecil Wallace Whitfield, Sir Arthur Folkes, Sir Randall Fawkes.
Most of the power players at the time.
Yeah, and of all of them, the one who most attached his attention to me was Loftus Roker. So as it stands now, I sit in the very seat that he used to occupy. But he and I are very close friends from I was a very young man.
Was he one of your mentors?
I think so. I think so. I still see him now. I was teasing him the other day. I saw him driving in a silver Mercedes-Benz, and I said to him, I look forward to the day when I'm an ex-minister, so I can actually ride in a car and nobody, you know, interferes with me for having one. I said it's obviously a good life being an ex-minister. So, yeah. But he and I are good friends. I would say that I got. My education, of course, is a first degree at Antioch College in Ohio, where I got a degree in English literature. My first career was in journalism. I ran the Broadcasting Corporation's News and Public Affairs unit until 1979. Then I went to Harvard to do a public administration degree, and then I went to do a law degree in 1983 in the UK. I was called to the bar here in 1986, and I practiced as a lawyer, then became a social activist and political activist, and was elected to Parliament ultimately in 2002, appointed to the Senate in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have had you have lived the Bahamian dream.
The kids seem fascinated by it. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but it's been fortunate.
I think it's obvious.
Yeah, it's a good life. Yeah.
Minister, you have had, as I said before, you are very popular, and you have the privilege, I count it, as being one of the most influential and well-liked minister in your government, the PLP administration, that by all accounts is at this time very unpopular. Have you had, do you still have aspirations of one day leading our country?
Yes, I do. I think anybody who's in this business at the ministerial level would obviously want to rise to the next level. I think that's a natural thing. And of course, I stepped out of school, high school, wanting to do that. I want to take a bit of an issue with the premise on which you start, though, about the unpopularity. I just wanted to say that you don't know the actual popularity of a government until the question is actually framed at election time. What happens in between is you go in ups and downs and, you know, ins and outs. And you've got to remember that the way our system works is a first past the post system. We started out with 47% of the popular vote. So 53% of the people voted against us in the 2012 general election. So it stands to reason that 53 can make more noise than 47. So that's the issue.
you have been, or your party has been, a beneficiary of the DNA, the third party who came between the both major political parties and took away.
We won on a plurality, yeah. That's the way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it stands the reason why you have more work, some would say, to do to capture the imagination of enough persons to get you past 50%.
That's right. I mean, that's precisely the point, is the mathematics of it. That's why I put it that way, that 53% can make more noise than 47%. So no matter what you do, and particularly if the sort of commanding heights of the media, the people who actually do the public interpretation, are actually owned by those who support those who oppose you. So, I mean, you know, you have no way of getting
Are you
past that
suggesting,
megaphone.
Minister, that the media forces are against the Progressive Liberal Party?
No, there's no question about that.
No question?
No, and there's no issue with it. I mean, but the fact is they are.
They are.
Oh, yeah.
And you would say an overwhelming majority of the media is against the PLP?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bahamian media.
No question.
Interesting to
Yeah,
know.
no.
Minister, notwithstanding your successes over the years, this is your second stint at serving in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I think the first at Immigration.
Yeah.
And immigration has any number of very vexing issues for the country. But we're going to dive into a few things. But the first one I want to talk about is something in my own analysis and evaluation is probably the worst department under your leadership, and that is the Passport Office. I wouldn't have time today to share with you the amounts of complaints, but I'll just take one or two of them. One, why in 2016, with the technology and all that we have at our disposal, Bahamians have to wait an inordinate amount of time, sometimes 3 months and more, to get a passport in our country?
For the same reason the Americans had to tell you to wait for 3 months to get theirs. Sometimes from management issues, technology issues break down. But you know, the U.S. just early in the year, they were telling people that you have to apply way in advance because there are going to be delays with passports.
But Minister, not to disrupt you, but the U.S. has over 300 million people. Our population is less than 400,000.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, and I grant you that's a good argument. That's a good argument to make, and I'm not seeking to excuse it. The fact is, as I say, there are management and technology issues. We hope we've gotten on top of it now because we just signed a new border management system, including passports. The new passports are going to start in January, so they're just being designed now. And that's an $18 million project. So lots of issues there. But I would also say that one of the other issues, of course, that people complain about is the fact that to determine who is a citizen of the Bahamas is a very complicated issue. And it's gotten to the point now where if you want to get a passport, you have to prove that your grandmother was a citizen of the Bahamas. And very often that's very difficult to do because people have not recorded their births, so you have to rely on affidavits. The affidavits have to be registered, and then there's a spelling. Sometimes even people who have birth certificates, there's a spelling mistake with their name, or their name is different, and so there's a lot of back and forth, and it just takes a long time.
Why impose that on the Bahamian people, though?
Because you need to, if you're issuing a passport, the law says the passport has to be issued to a Bahamian. And so you have to determine whether the person is a Bahamian. The other thing is, it is an identity document. So if it is an identity document officially being issued by the government, it has to be, if you are Robert E. Jones, then the passport must reflect what is actually on your birth certificate, Robert E. Jones, not Robert S. Jones, or not Robert spelt with Robert spelled, let's say, TTE, So all of those things have to match up.
We're going to pick back up there, Minister, when we come back from this break, because there's a number of other questions concerning the Passport Office that we want to get back. You're tuned into Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and we'll be right back.
At Henry F. Storr Electric Company, we supply all your electric needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Storr Electric, number 135 Macklin Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
Are you a business person staying for a night, a week, or a month? Holding a meeting for your company or organization? A couple starting your married life with your wedding? Looking for vacation happiness on Grand Bahama Island? We know our happiness will make you happy. You'll see it in the smiles on the faces of our people. Our common goal at Pelican Bay Hotel is to anticipate what you need to be happy and to see that you get it. Visit our website to find everything you need to find happiness at Pelican Bay at Lucaya.
Welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and I am, of course, here today with the Minister of Immigration and Foreign Affairs. Minister Mitchell, when we went to the break, you were explaining to the public some of the reasoning and rationales behind the current policy that is, to put it mildly, wreaking havoc on many of our people who have to use the passport office. And I take it that no amount of explanation can truly suffice for the frustration that people feel. But certainly it's important to hear, as leader of that area, your point of view, and so that people would appreciate what's going on, because quite a number of our public feel that people like yourselves are really just sitting on your hands and not doing common sense things to make their lives easy. And they have a right to feel that way when they are not getting the kind of service from government agencies.
Well, I would take issue also with that, because Clarence Russell, who heads the unit, is doing an excellent job. The passport backlog has disappeared. And what I would say is the issue really is now this question of people coming up to proof. I mean, I'm sure there's service issues still around, but I think the issue is people coming up to proof. One of the things that happens is, inevitably, people, first, you can get a passport within 48 hours if your documentation is in order. It costs $200 to do so for that service. So no one should not be able to get a passport.
But some say the fact that you can get a passport in 48 hours paying $200 stands the reason that you shouldn't have to wait 3 months. I mean, that
I think most people don't have to wait 3 months. We are, in fact, we've not announced that it isn't actually 3 months. But as a precaution, we're still saying until the new machinery comes in, we are still saying 3 months. But it is possible to get the passport much before that. The problem is the regulations are written in such a way that the minister can't interfere if you want the passport within 48 hours. You know, there's no point coming to me and saying, you know, can you give me a break? I can't do that. I don't have the lawful
Who created
authority.
those policies?
We designed the regulations.
The
that
current
way.
administration.
Oh, absolutely.
So in effect, you are responsible for the regulation. You can't blame the regulation for the reason.
Well, but regulations are there for a reason, because the problem is you breed corrupt practices when you're able to call some minister up on the phone and say, I need to get this passport before someone else. What you have to do is to put in a rational, fair, and certain system. And that's why the system is set up that way. So you can't have interference from politicians. That's the issue.
I'd make a quick point. A staff member said to me recently, in the last few days, in fact, when she found out I was preparing to meet you on this program, she said that she has a daughter who all of her parents, her husband's parents, and grandparents, all Bahamians, generation of Bahamians, and yet she had e-passports issued to her daughter. Now she's in Freeport, and now she's having tremendous difficulty having to find affidavit for her grandmother and all these other things, some of which you alluded to earlier. I still find that to be a little troubling, as the public do, that the policy, while we need those policy, seems to be a little awkward in the sense that when there is an abundance of evidence that this person is a Bahamian, but for a one letter on a name, on a middle name or an initial, you can understand the public's frustration with having to. I
understand, but if you typed into your computer an address and one letter is different than what it was, what will happen? You won't get the address. It'll bounce back. So you have to, if you are, as I said, Robert E. Bartlett, then you have to be Robert E. Bartlett. You can't be Robert K. Bartlett. And
I think in most cases it's not a matter of wrong middle initial. It's a matter of spelling of a name.
Even spelling,
right.
Even spellings.
But
even spellings.
Can you promise the Bahamian people with a straight face that the summer month is coming, and that's the busy period when our people travel a lot? Can you say to the Bahamian public that we will not have the fiasco that happened last year and the year before in terms of them acquiring
Well,
passports?
you're using these emotive words. It wasn't a fiasco. It wasn't
well,
a fiasco.
Minister, I'm simply reflecting the thoughts of the people.
I mean, the press shows up and they see a long line outside and somebody is, in obvious distress, and so but fine. I mean, that's the game. Most people were served in a reasonable period of time and were satisfied with the service.
So can you promise better service this year than you did last year?
I think so. As I said, Superintendent Russell's taken over the operation. I'm satisfied he's doing a fairly
And he is
good
in
job.
charge of the entire Bahamas
Yes,
now?
right, he is, yeah, I think so.
Good, good. Let's move on to another issue, and that is with the gender equality referendum upcoming shortly, a lot in the Haitian Bahamian community have voiced concerns that they feel that the government have left them out, and successive government has promised to bring about reform, regularization to the whole issue of children born in the Bahamas to foreign parents that are stateless. And their issues is not being brought up. I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that those children born in the Bahamas after independence, after 1973, to foreign parents, have to wait until they attain the age of 18 to apply for citizenship, and they are not entitled. Notwithstanding, a Bahamian male today can marry a foreign woman, and she gets an entitlement. Do you understand the frustration and the unreasonableness of being born in the Bahamas? This is your country. You've never been to Haiti. And yet you can't travel. You don't have a passport. You can't vote. How do you address that?
Well, again, you can get a passport. They're not stateless. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing that people say. They're not stateless. They can get a passport. Anyone who's genuinely stateless, because I think there's some discussion in the Haitian government about whether the person's born like third generation or I think second generation, whether they are Haitians or not. Although the Constitution of Haiti says a Haitian born anywhere is a Haitian at birth. Okay, but let's put that one aside. Anyone who's genuinely stateless, the Bahamas government has a commitment internationally to make sure that they have a status in the country, including citizenship. Secondly, minister has the authority under the Nationality Act to grant citizenship to any minor at any time. So that's number two. Number three is, as a matter of routine, anyone who is born in the Bahamas to foreign parents who lived here all their lives and who applies within the deadline, notwithstanding the delay in the thing, gets it more or less automatically, unless there's some huge issue, and I can't think of a single time since I've been minister.
So if that being the case, why is there so many over the years, and I'm not attributing only this to your government because the previous government faced the same challenges, but why has this continued if it is so easy as you have made it out to be?
Well, the law is easy in that sense, but...
Is it politics?
No, it isn't politics. It's that it requires cabinet time. I don't make the decision. The decision is made by a cabinet. In the space of, let's say, every week, if you can deal with 30 of these applications, you deal with plenty. And I don't think I think in the 4 years we've been in office, I think we may have granted 700 citizenships, maybe.
And the majority of those to Haitian
They
children,
would be, yeah.
children of Haitian descent?
Yeah, sure. I think the genuine stateless cases are Jamaicans, where the Jamaican Constitution does not give a right at birth to citizenship. You have to apply. Even though you're entitled to it, you have to apply. And so what they are caught in is this problem. The Jamaican Constitution leaves them without citizenship at birth. The Bahamian Constitution leaves them without citizenship at birth. So that's a genuinely stateless individual. Now the solution to that, of course, is Jamaican parents should just apply at birth. The issue, of course, and I always contrast to this, I can assure you that any American couple, if their kids are born here, within 5 minutes they're down at that embassy getting a U.S. passport. So the same thing as Haitian parents can do the same thing, except they won't.
And you're saying apply for a Haitian passport?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. See, I'm not the Minister of Social Commentary at the moment. I'm the Minister of Immigration, and the laws are what they are, and the Constitution is what it is.
Do you think those laws should be amended?
I've written essays on this prior to my life, but in this job, I don't have an opinion on that. My job is just to guard the law as it is. Yeah.
Many people also say, and I think some expats probably more so than Bahamians, say as a people we are very hypocritical because countless Bahamians go to the U.S. to have children, to allow them to have access to the benefits of U.S. citizenship.
Yeah.
Yet the same people, we all complain about our country being overtaken by whether it's the Haitians, the Jamaicans, or whomever. Are we a hypocritical people? Is that a double standard?
Again, I'm not the minister of social commentary, so I wouldn't venture into that.
Not wishing to comment on that.
No.
We also have a concern that the Bahamian citizens have concerning the Department of Immigration, that it seems as if the non-black foreigners, if you would put it that way, that come into our country, mainly investors, I believe, seem to be able to, at will, bring in foreign workers. Yet Bahamians, whether they want someone to be a gardener, a maid, or whatever it is, have a huge hurdle in trying to acquire a permit. How do you speak to that?
Well, immigration does about $50 million worth of business in work permits and permanent residence fees every year. So it's become a revenue earner for the government. Having said that, notwithstanding the policies that you have to get a labor certificate before it can be granted, I would guess the refusal rate is less than 2%. So anyone who applies for a work permit largely gets the work permit they want. And I would challenge anyone to say that they can't get the foreign labor that they need to help do their work here.
And many Bahamians would disagree with you on that point.
Well, the proof is always in the pudding. Bring me a name and tell me the instance where that didn't happen.
And so categorically you're saying your department does not in any way give any preferential treatment to, say, the investors at Bar Mar or anywhere else to bring in laborers or workers, foreign workers, period, not just laborers.
No, everybody's treated the same. And I would say this, with regard to large developers, what often happens is they have agreements with the government on which gives them a quota for work permits. But even that quota, since I've been minister, is applied. You got to have the proof that you don't need, that you don't have a Bahamian to do the job.
And once that is done, it
and that's, I don't determine that. The Department of Labor does. They issue a certificate, and if they issue the certificate, then fine.
We're having a very interesting, very informative discussion with the Minister of Immigration and Foreign Affairs, Mr. Fred Mitchell. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. This is Nation Building. We'll be right back.
At Henry F. Storr Electric Company, we supply all your electrical needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find, energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Storr Electric, number 135 Mackley Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
You're thinking about starting a business or looking to expand and grow an existing business? The Invest Grand Bahama Small Business Bureau can help. We are your complete business resource center, offering a one-stop shop service to aspiring entrepreneurs and existing business owners. Did you know that most startup businesses fail within the first 3 to 5 years as a result of poor planning, insufficient funding, and lack of basic business management skills and training? The Invest Grand Bahama Small Business Bureau offers a wealth of resources, information, and support to help entrepreneurs avoid costly mistakes, make wise choices, and plan effectively for a successful business venture. Why risk becoming a statistic? Helping entrepreneurs realize their goals of successful business ownership while working with existing businesses to remain competitive and profitable is what we do. Visit or call us today for more information on how the Invest Grand Bahama Small Business Bureau can help you. Invest Grand Bahama Small Business Bureau, empowering licensees.
Who said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price? If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit.
Jamaica Bahama coconut milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahamas' fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau. I don't wanna wait. No, no. I don't wanna wait.
Welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and with me today is the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration, the Honorable Fred Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, there has been a long-standing problem, and I can't quantify or speak to what is currently happening, but it's public knowledge that your department, the Ministry of Immigration, has been over the years publicly criticized for having corruption. In fact, I might be corrected on this, but if I'm not mistaken, you yourself at times have been a critic of the department for the way procedures and in terms of how things are conducted, and people being accused of getting permits, by using financial means to acquire permits and so forth. Can you speak to the public now that you have responsibility, has had responsibility for the ministry over the last 4 years?
Well,
there is no corruption in the immigration department.
Let me say this: I can't speak to specifically whether there is or there isn't. What I know is that there are lots of allegations being made in the public domain. But every time I say to someone, okay, fine, if that's what your allegation is, give me the instance. And once you give it to me, I will try and ferret it out. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even have to be specific. Just give it in the general. And I'll, seek to find out where it is. Doesn't matter to me. The thing is, the chips fall where they may with regard to this. What I would say is there's this problem throughout all services offered by the government, and particularly the government of the Bahamas, and I use that generically, is that wherever you have scarce resources, you have the tendency to create black markets, because that means the resources get scarce, and the only way to allocate them, or people think the only way to allocate them, is by, do you know somebody? Can you grease somebody's palm? So on and so forth. That happens. The way to eliminate those possibilities is to give the department and departments the resources which they require to do the work which they're being asked to do. And then the problem will disappear. Because then you don't have to have a non-rational means to allocate the resources, the services that you're providing. We try and argue that with the Exchequer every year. One of the things I've said is that, for example, this department could be properly resourced if the pricing points of the services which we offer are adjusted to reflect the actual costs plus the premium of delivering the service. Give you one example. If you're a managing director of a company in this country and you have to pay for a work permit, that work permit is $12,500 a year. But you can get permanent residence with the right to work for $10,000, which is a lifetime thing. So something doesn't add up. The pricing point is obviously out of whack. And I'll show you this. What people are paying for is the right to live in a place which is beautiful, life is easy, no one interferes with you. You don't have all these rules that you have in these developed countries. You can come here and live an easy life. And I gave the example in Parliament where one man who we're fighting with over immigration issues in Freeport, his lawyer charged $500,000 to his clients or client to defend his right to stay in the Bahamas. Now that tells you what that's worth. So obviously we can adjust the price.
So how specifically, though, does adjusting the price affect the fact that the Immigration Department has government workers, the Bahamian people through taxation, including VAT, pays for the service that they deserve. And so why not, if there is a shortage of staff, simply hire more people?
Because you got to pay for it. And within the existing limitations, the Exchequer says we can't afford it. We can't afford it. We can't afford it.
And
I'm saying is, if you have the resources, if you adjust the pricing point, you'll get the money. You'll have the money.
So basically what you're saying, Minister, is if you can increase fees to generate more revenue for the Immigration Department itself, you will be able to have the budget you need to be able to do more.
Absolutely. That's my argument.
The interesting thing, Minister, is...
And then, I'm sorry, to follow my logic to the end, is the scarcities would disappear. And therefore, no one would be able, you don't then, because it's scarcity which creates this black market. So people says, oh, I know a cousin who works in there, or I know a friend who works in there, or my church pal goes there. All of that stuff would disappear.
Minister, I think you actually dodged the question, the foundation of my question, which was, can you categorically say to the Bahamian public that issues of corruption do not exist in your ministry?
No, I can't say that. I said that at the start. I won't. I can't put my.
But isn't it though your responsibility to ensure that it doesn't exist?
And I said that anybody who challenges me on that, the first thing I ask them is, give me the example. Where is it? Do you have the evidence? If you got the evidence, you let me know. Somebody will have a look at it.
Is it fair to say that? You're satisfied that the Immigration Department is being operated at premium in terms of using the current staff levels that you have? You are putting out serving the Bahamian people as best as you can with what exists.
I'm not sure I'd go even that far, because obviously there's a lot of tweaking that needs to be done. What I know is the department utilizes the resources to the best of its ability. Whether that's the best service for the Bahamian public, I can't go that far. I mean, I would say, for example, Abaco, the Department of Immigration, needs vehicles, doesn't have boats. The Exuma Keys, the same issue. So, but this is a practical life, and there's only so much in the pie, and everybody's competing for resources. Now, that's why I'm using the program as an opportunity to lobby even the Exchequer on this point. That if I believe that if the pricing point is adjusted, we could get the resources we need. That's what I think.
Many say and have said in our country for quite a number of years that we are incapable of protecting our borders. The social services in our country has been burdened by the influx of illegal immigrants, primarily from Haiti. And that has impacted our society severely, notwithstanding all the efforts of your department. It continues to be a major issue. Is there a real solution to this problem of people coming to the Bahamas by boat primarily? And how do we really stem the immigration problem?
I'll tell you this, Nicolette Bethel, who used to be Director of Culture, works in COB. She spoke to a forum that I put on at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs once, and she said, I got a solution for stopping the migration, illegal or irregular migration problem. People come to the Bahamas because the Bahamas is a rich country and Haiti is a poor country. So let's make the Bahamas a poor country and they'll stop coming. So the serious point is that it's the economy which drives migration. Migration is a natural state of mankind. When in the old days, before there were nation states, if things were going bad in the place, there was no food, there was a drought, you just picked up your family and your kids and you moved to the next place, which is a greener pasture. These days, you can't do that because you cross borders and nation states. The only point that we are making is unlawful migration cannot be sustained, because then you have the problem of how you allocate resources. And what we're trying to do is control unlawful migration. Can we stop it? I doubt it, but we can manage the problem more effectively than we are.
Have you been managing it more effective in this term in office
No
than
question.
the previous administration?
No question.
And then the records say that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Some have proffered the suggestion that we need to deploy drones or provide more resources, more boats to the Defense Force, any number of suggestions. And it's always the cry that there is no money. Anything before we go to the break that you believe that can, in the medium term, add to help significantly in easing the flow, notwithstanding all that you've mentioned?
Well, technology is part of it. Yeah, technology is part of it. Ships are part of it. But I'll tell you what it is. It's the Bahamian people. They have to decide whether or not they're going to support it or they're not.
And support it meaning?
Well, support the issue of lawful migration. Black markets are driven by people. And we're finding that this business of smuggling people is such big business now that it's overtaken drugs in some areas as the most important.
Are you suggesting that Bahamians are the chief culprits of bringing illegal?
I don't have to suggest it. I think the evidence is quite clear.
Okay.
I mean, people have been brought before the courts, and we've amended the law to make the penalties tougher, and we have to do a job with the courts to convince them that the policy is now changed and tougher penalties ought to be imposed. But the facts are there, that this could not be as successful as it is unless it's driven by people who actually live here and who are Bahamians.
We are on Nation Building. I'm Winston Pinnock, your host, and we'll be right back.
Are you a business person staying for a night, a week, or a month? Holding a meeting for your company or organization? A couple starting your married life with your wedding? Looking for vacation happiness on Grand Bahama Island? We know our happiness will make you happy. You'll see it in the smiles on the faces of our people. Our common goal at Pelican Bay Hotel is to anticipate what you need to be happy and to see that you get it. Visit our website to find everything you need to find happiness at Pelican Bay at Lucaya.
Hello, I'm Wendell Jones, and every time I sit down and I watch JCN television, I drink the Jamaica Bahama fruit juice. It's so pleasing to the palate.
I've been cooking Bahamian dishes for generations. I now use Jamaica Bahamas product. The rice is very fluffy, very tasty, and good eating. Jamaica Bahama product is simply the best.
As an insurance agent, my life is go, go, go. But whenever I need a refreshing break, it's Jamaica Bahamas Island Mixed Fruit Drink. Good.
Hi, I'm Debbie Bartlett from GEMS 105.9 FM. The effect that Island Junkanoo Juice medley has on me is exhilarating.
At Henry F. Store Electric Company, we supply all your electric needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find, energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Store Electric, number 135 Mackley Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
Welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and today we are with some would say one of the most popular, if not the most popular minister in the Christie administration, Mr. Fred Mitchell, who is the Minister of Immigration and Foreign Affairs. Minister, there is an interesting occurrence. In fact, before we get to that interesting occurrence that happened a few years ago that we want to talk about, the issue of leadership in the PLP. You talked earlier about the fact that you've made no secret of the fact that anyone in your capacity, and certainly you, aspire to leadership, to leading the country. Many people are of the view that persons such as yourselves have missed your opportunity by allowing the current leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, our Prime Minister, to remain in his position too long in effect, you have people of his generation and the Ingram generation have robbed the persons, the next generation or younger leaders of the opportunity to lead. And now you have the generation that is behind you biting at the bit for leadership. And it seems like, based on recent pronouncement, your prime minister, your leader, your party's leader, intend to continue into the next general election. And so the question is, do you intend to challenge the sitting leader of your party for leadership of the party? And if not, when? Will you have an opportunity to serve?
No, I don't intend to challenge him. You know, Compton came back as prime minister when he was 83. Bernie Sanders is 74. Yeah, so
you think you still have time if the opportunity presents itself?
Yeah, and you know, things don't break the way in life. Things don't break the way you want them to. You have to meet whatever exists, and the question isn't really so much age; it's whether you're relevant to the times. And so, if the younger ones, when that opportunity presents itself, or if it does, if they think I'm not relevant to the times, well, cool breeze with that, and move on to something else. I mean, it's not something that's a make or break in my life. As others, you know, I see some fellow, you know, getting down on his knees and praying to God and all the rest of that. So, I mean, good luck to him, you know. But, yeah, no, I mean, it's...
So you're at peace with the fact that if the opportunity presents, fine. Yeah. If not, Fred Mitchell is quite happy with what you have had the opportunity.
I think it's a rare opportunity in this country to be in the position you're in. And, you know, it's been, you know, good fortune and quite providential to be able to do it. I mean, beyond certainly the imagination of my parents, I'm sure, when I was born, they would never have considered that, you know, we'd be where we are, you know.
Minister, would you concede that the Bahamas is still a very, very conservative country in terms of the way our people, the expectations of our people and the practice of our people, they are?
Yeah.
That said,
on the face of it, anyway.
Right.
What they do behind closed doors.
I was getting to that point. That said, many say that there's a lot of hypocrisy with us as a people because there is a demand and expectations from our leaders that, generally speaking, we don't live up to. But there is still a significant majority of the population that believe in the Bible and the principles of the Bible, and would want to, I guess, if only for the face of it, see a leader of a country with a wife and with children, and some in your organization who was madly in love with you, and I've talked to a few of them myself, with your abilities and your gift to lead and to administrate, say they would choose you to be the leader of the party, but Mitchell doesn't have a wife. How do you... and you have a right, everyone has a right to decide whether you want to be like the Apostle Paul and remain single, or whether you have, so by no means am I suggesting that there's something wrong with being single, but do you feel that that has hindered you, the fact that you have been and remain single and not have a family and meet the traditional expectations as far as values?
I don't think so. I think people use that. It's a buzzword for something else. And fine, you know, I tell people, look, I've grown up in the society. You know, I hear what people say and so on and so forth, the whisper campaign, all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, the only thing that counts is the content of your character. And if they can assail me on that, good for them. I don't think they can. And the question really is ability more than anything else. I think that's what people look for. The other stuff, it titillates and, you know, excites gossip and all the rest of that. I'm a public figure, so that comes with the territory. So I don't concern myself
You
with
deal
that.
with it.
No.
Deal with it as it comes.
No.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
A few years ago, Minister, one of the country's most outstanding religious leader, Dr. Miles Monroe, he and you got into some form of a spat, a back and forth, about an issue that he perceived to be you misrepresenting the values of our people and of the country. And it was quite alarming that that back and forth continued for some time. And some people say that, who think well of you, that you should never have gone down that path.
Which path?
The part of the back and forth with Dr. Monroe, for two reasons primarily. One, his stature in terms of in the country from a spiritual point of view, and also that it didn't do you well to have gone into what seemed to be, from the public's eye view, a battle with a religious leader. You probably should have just stated your position and moved on. Do you regret having that back and forth with the spiritual leader, or what do you say about that now?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm a public figure. I don't have private thoughts. I have public thoughts. And, you know, my view is if you attack me, I'm attack you back. And it doesn't matter to me who it is.
So it doesn't matter who?
Not at all.
Once Fred Mitchell is spoken of ill, you're going to defend yourself.
Absolutely, expect it. Don't worry about it. It isn't going to take 30 seconds. I don't have to think long about it.
Very interesting. There's one more hot button
I respect him. I mean, you know, I'm not attacking him in a personal sense. It's
you see that as defending
it's
your
a philosophical
position.
Thing.
There's one more hot button issue, if you will, that you have been criticized for strongly, even by Dr. Monroe and others, for over the years, and that is, and I want to preface this remark by saying that some people feel like our country has not been fair and just to differing views, whether it's on immigration, whether it's on sexuality or other things. But you seem to have made it your business to defend those in the LGBT community over the years. In fact, you've made some statements in Parliament, stating the fact that there should be, these people have a right and so forth, and that you believe our country should mature. And I'm basically summarizing statements you've made. So I wanted you to clarify for the Bahamian people where you stand on that issue, and why would you take such a risk in a very conservative country to even go out and to defend that grouping?
But it's not a risk. What risk is there? It's a generic.
In a conservative country, you would agree that's not for a politician.
Yeah.
That's not a typical. That's not. I mean, in America you can do that, but in a conservative country, that's risky, Minister. I mean, people have a good view of you, and so the expectation. And I give you great marks for standing up for what you believe, at least. But the expectation is, you would do the traditional thing, which is to stay clear of things that may be a mark against your record or take you out of popularity with the people. So speak to it.
You know, I don't consider it a risk at all. I mean, you know, Martin Luther King says the only thing that counts is the content of your character. So Bahamas can't derogate from that. And because, you know, somebody is part of the LGBT community doesn't deny them the general rights of the population. And that's the only point that's made. It's a generic defense. People are compartmentalized into these little things, and people play on prejudices. But you know, it's a generic issue. Everybody in this country who's a citizen of the Bahamas has certain rights, which are inalienable. And the fact that your orientation is different doesn't change those rights. And that's the only point that's being made.
What do you make of the hullabaloo about Bill 4 in the referendum, that it's likely to open the door to gay marriage? How do you address people who are of that view?
Oh, I think that's ridiculous. In fact, I'm voting yes on all 4 questions. I was just talking to some women this morning. I've been door to door in my constituency yesterday. You know, this is about, the only thing that these 4 questions are about is, I'm a man born in the Bahamas, and because I'm male, I have certain rights in the Constitution, which women don't have. And all this is designed to do is to give women the same rights I have. Now, that's it. There's nothing fancy about it. I said to my branch the other day, when you go to U.S. immigration, you fill out the box, the immigration box. It says sex, and it says M and F. M is for male, F is for female. And no one would think that that's asking you whether you're gay or straight. I mean, give me a break. And so this is just a buzzword to cause confusion again by men. Notice it's all men, you know, telling women. Essentially what they're telling women is to stand back, you know your place. But
Minister, you'll be surprised to know the amount of Bahamian women that's not comfortable with this, even though the government proposed that it's for their benefit.
That's fine, and it's up to them. It's up to them. All I'm saying is, I, as a legislator, I'm trying to give you the opportunity to have everything in the Constitution that I have as a man. And whether you want to order your household in a different way, that's entirely up to you. how you want to operate a church. I told the preachers when I was in Andros, all of us have to agree that if women don't show up to church on Sunday, the church will be empty.
Two quick questions. We're running out of time, but two quick questions, Minister. One is, categorically, do you oppose gay marriage becoming legal in the Bahamas?
I prefer not to pronounce on it. I don't have an opinion on it. I support the 4 bills as they are. I don't want to add any further confusion to it, because the moment I say something on something, that becomes some headline about something. I'm not getting in that, no way.
Respected. Minister, there are some, and noted attorney QC Harvey Tynes have also took issue with the fact that, I think it's bill number 2, saying that it was a mistake in the first place, talking about inequality, to have allowed Bahamian men like us to be able to marry a foreign woman and gave them entitlement to Bahamian citizenship. And the way to correct that is not to make the problem worse by then allowing the women to have the same right, but in fact you should have proposed to remove that right from, what do you say to that?
Yeah, boy, if you want to see a row, you got a big row over this now. If you try that, boy, we'd be really in a stew. No, I think you got to vote yes to the 4 questions. Harvey's a good friend of mine. I appreciate the point of view that he has, but you got to vote yes to the 4 questions. And I say to this, it's your daughters, grandmothers, mothers, so on and so forth. If I voted no for this, my mother would turn in her grave. My mother, right, who voted for the first time at 40 years old. She couldn't vote, right, until she was 40 years old in 1962. That's ridiculous. Why? And so I must now, in 2016, when I'm asked to complete the journey of equality for women, to vote no, I would never do that. My mother, when I was going to college in 1970, my father lost his job. My father was without a job for 3 years. Who carried my family? And I must vote no? They got to be joking. Absolutely. And they are talking foolishness. I want to tell you that. They're absolutely talking foolishness. I mean, how could they do that? I don't understand these people.
We hear you. You've made your position quite clear.
Yeah.
But by the way, someone asked me to ask you, do you have any foreign, any of your grandparents or anyone that is foreign to?
Yeah, my grandfather on my mother's side. I don't know the depth of my father's family. My father's family came from what he called Watlands, which was now San Salvador. Became San Salvador in 1926, and his father came to Nassau when he was 14 from the United States, and I didn't know my great-grandparents, neither did my father. He was raised in Three Peas Corner in Baintown by the Richardson family, and my grandfather married one of the Weiss sisters, where Ivan Johnson, who runs the Punch, his grandmother was another of the sisters, so we're second cousins. On my mother's side, though, my grandfather came to the Bahamas in 1900 as a baby from Barbados. His mother and father, his mother was a Barrow, and his father was a Ford. So
we're a melting pot.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm making, is that the country, people, and I say this now, bracing for whatever public criticism there.
Please say it. Make some headlines.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. The fact is that, people, I've spoken to people about this. People look at Haitian immigrants and they say, these poor black people who can't do nothing and drain and all the rest of it. But the country has actually been built to a significant extent on their labor.
On the Haitian labor?
Yeah, on their contribution to this country. When you think of it, to leave a country, coming to a place where you're despised because of the color of your skin and the fact that you don't speak a particular language, and yet you're able to surmount all of those obstacles and survive, and then contribute your family to the building up of the country. You have to say that is an example of how immigration generally assists a country. So the question again is not who's doing the immigrating or migration to the Bahamas. The question is whether you come to the country lawfully. This is a country which it is easy to migrate to lawfully. And that's all we keep saying. Migrate to the country lawfully. There's a requirement for labor here. And just go through the processes and it'll work.
Minister,
That's the
you've
issue.
been a great guest.
Yeah.
Thanks for appearing on Nation Building. This is Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. Stay tuned for next week's edition when we'll have another very lively, educational and informative program. Thanks for watching.